Welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast that has the science and the screaming to unequivocally figure out what the best movie is of any given year. I'm your host, Mike Gravano, and this season we're digging into 2001, this week specifically, talking about David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. Here to just hopefully tell me exactly what the fuck I watched this week is the winner of last week. I hope I got that right, Ryan.
Why is it so hard? We've all hosted now. Why is it so fucking hard to remember who won not but 7 days ago?
Because when you're the host, it doesn't matter to you at all.
It's the least important thing.
The other two people are trying so hard to get it, and you were just barely paying attention.
Also, the rules of winning is to become the person's best friend, but that's by like leaving muffin baskets on the doorstep and then running away as fast as you can.
But Ryan,
yes,
delicious. Normally I go for blueberry, but that lemon poppy, delectable.
Thank you. They were made with the secret ingredient of love cream.
Gross.
I thought they were saltier than a muffin should be. The person who thinks that's gross, that friendship among adult men is gross, is Greg.
Well, I think you're kind of taking what I said out of context. I just think your friendship specific. No, okay, sorry. I was
Oh, okay. You've just said something a lot of our mothers and wives have said. That our friendship specifically.
And therapists, to be fair.
Therapists to be therapists. Mulholland Drive. Well, I don't think we have time to just dick around and ask each other about our lives.
Hey,
Gentlemen,
Patreon, if you subscribe to Patreon, you can go listen to that clip, and that's just us fucking around. Like, we don't have time right now. Like, this part right now that I'm doing, I guess this is fucking around. Like, we don't even have time for this thing that I'm doing right now.
And if I pick up from here and then also do the same thing, there's definitely not enough time for me to do it as well, certainly.
How had your experience been with Mulholland Drive before this?
I saw it one time in 2001, and I don't think I had any idea who David Lynch was, or I heard it was an unusual movie, but I had like no idea, and nothing prepared me for what I was seeing.
I think that an unusual movie that's a good place to start and end, I would say. I don't know if there's anything else to do.
So let's just cut out early?
I've seen it a bunch of times now, and but this is the first week that I ever paid attention because there's points on the line. I don't know why else you would watch a movie. And I will say it, guys. I know it's becoming a cliche at this point, but Mike, go ahead. Tell Dropad to hit the button with all the thunder and the lightning and the drum rolls and the trumpets.
Look at me! How dare you! Close your eyes!
That's the closest to thunder we have.
This is the best movie that Movie of the Year has ever done.
I think that's Dropad agreeing.
Mike, did you tell Dropad that we don't have time to fuck around, or what's going on right now?
I tried, but is what Dropad had to say to me. The best movie. Greg, how do you feel about that statement? Too bold? Not bold enough?
To be honest, I don't know if I think it's the best movie that we've ever seen for the show, but it is. It feels like there's a chance it's going to the top of the leaderboard for 2001, and I would say it's certainly in contention. It's always a little more clear at the end of the episode where we talk about the movie, just exactly how excited we are by it. But I think there's certainly, it has the markers of a movie that does very well in our show, which is it's hard to understand. I feel like I could watch it again right now and get things that I didn't get before. I feel like there's questions that are brought up that are never like fully answered in a way that just seeing the movie a couple times can like provide you with the answers. One thing I resisted doing very, very strongly, although I wanted to do it, was I really wanted to like look up what people said about this movie, or like how people have parsed its meaning. But I wanted to instead come into the show basically only having the movie to go by and trying to put together some understanding of it, because I didn't want to go outside and find something that felt like exterior to the movie. I only wanted my understanding to be informed by the interior of the movie. and we'll see how successful that was.
I think that's super important because like it's this like cloud that it picks you up and like carries you from your our individual screening rooms that we all have in our mansions to the studio, which is also very large, people are telling me. And just on those feelings, though, not necessarily, it's not even like this person is this person, and it's not even necessarily like I think the blue key represents hope or whatever, but just the like ethereal feeling that carries you into this conversation, I think is going to be the most interesting part about this, because it's not about finding the perfect. It's not about all agreeing on something and saying, yeah, we figured it out. But I just kind of want to know, like, what did we all fucking go through on this?
Yeah, that's the interesting question. Like, do we even have like some sort of experience with this movie that is like a unified experience, or did we all like see very wildly different things?
Yeah, this is one of those movies that, like, based on based on people's reactions, lets you know that, like, people generally want different things out of books than movies, because the amount of anger that there's not a clear it means this on the internet is crazy. And so many people are like, I mean, interesting performances, enjoyed the whole thing, doesn't mean anything, 1 star. Like, people were
Descripto, get out of here.
It was all compliments, except you said, I don't know what it means, so it means it's bad.
It very much reminds me of like postmodern literature for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a real like Don DeLillo style of like just the most absurd combination of things all going on at the same time. Like, for instance, the espresso scene, like in the middle of a business meeting, this really intimidating Italian businessman wanting an espresso, and just that whole like comedic way it plays out, and the kind of gross way because he ends up like spitting it out, and there's just so much weird tension in the scene.
I mean, spitting, yeah, but like it's more just like I'm gonna open my mouth out,
and it falls out.
It's so disgusting. I don't even have the energy to spit. I'm just gonna let it fall out. Mike, going back to what you said, I think this movie's been important to me for a long time, and I think this rewatch this week finally showed me why. And I think that it's one of the best movies ever made. But if it's not the best movie ever made, I think it's the best movie at being a movie ever made. And what I mean by that is that there's lots of great everything, albums and books and movies and TV shows, but they could be something else. They could do another thing. This is the thing that utilizes what it means to be a movie better than anything I have ever seen in my life. If you read the book, let's pick something that totally at random, like The Wizard of Oz or some Frank Baum book, then maybe you don't need to see the movie, right? Like you got most of what you needed to. But this is the moviest movie I think that has ever been made, and I think we're all sort of downhill from here. I think that like this might be in this particular way the pinnacle of filmmaking.
I wish I could give points in this segment.
Yo, you're the host, bro.
You can literally give points. Ryan, did it bother you at all, though, that the whole thing was recorded?
Ryan. Well,
do you mean like they filmed it?
Yeah, the whole thing was recorded.
That it wasn't a play?
The like the very like sort of like the very center of the movie, or not really, but the emotional center of the movie is that Silencio Theater part, and he keeps saying all of this is recorded. There's no band. It's all recorded. And it reminded me so much of like David Lynch, like looking at the audience and being like, you guys, this is just a movie. It's not like a real thing. Stop trying to figure out what's real and what's not real in my movie. It's a movie. It's recorded. I recorded it.
But yeah, if we can get to it right now, and Mike, I don't know if this is allowed, but
this is crazy.
The Silencio part is, I think, like it backs up so much of how I feel about the thing, because
no, keep talking.
Because the message you're giving me is much
mixed
different than keep talking.
Yeah, on that one. Yeah.
All right, that was a little Lynchian, don't you think? Like the extremes of everything. But it's a crazy play. Plays are supposed to be like, the height of acting and bringing emotion out of people through stories. But they tell you it's all recorded, and it doesn't change the audience's reaction to it.
Mm-hmm. It does, though. It does in one way, though, doesn't it?
But it's basically just saying that if I think that people at home are saying, well, then this doesn't matter. But then you're saying just like movies in general don't matter. It's this like sort of Brechtian moment where they're saying this play is, recorded, and they're not actually doing this. But that's what we are watching, Greg. Like what you said, this was all recorded. We're watching that every time we're watching a movie. It doesn't affect the power. Movies are the most powerful medium. We don't have Booty Broadway of the year or fucking Audi album of the year. It's movie of the year, and David Lynch is the reason. Vote for me.
That is. I'd rather vote for Lynch, I think. But the wildest is, you're like, I get what this play is doing. Once the trumpet player stops, and then the lady starts singing, and each breath is so in time that when she collapses and the song keeps singing, you're like, you got me again, weird play. You got me again.
And that's the only thing I would say. The only thing I would like have a caveat with what you said, Ryan, because the women are are bawling when they're hearing this woman sing, and they have forgotten again, like the audience has, for like the third time, that this is all recorded. And they're like crying because they're both coming, I think, at that moment to like realizations about their relationship. But when it's revealed that it is a recording, they both look really embarrassed that they've been crying, because the idea that they've been crying at her recorded voice and not at a woman really singing live.
Yeah,
like,
and I think that totally speaks to how movie audiences handle with like they mostly dudes, like they fucking tricked me. And then to top it all off, it's all like judged upon by some sort of Hunger Games-esque leader who is like in a balcony with blue hair looking down on all of the majesty.
Yeah, when Kat picked up Thor's hammer at the end of Endgame, spoiler alerts, and I was bawling, I just kept saying, I can't believe they tricked me. I can't believe this isn't really happening in front of me.
Whereas I was like, how did they get that footage? That's so crazy they had a cameraman there for that crazy war.
I wrote down in my notes, blue and then equals means something, question mark. Because like I would see like her blue hair and then the whole stage gets blue. And then that's where like they're introduced to the blue cube. But we've already seen like the blue key a lot. But I was
Greg
like, okay,
gets a
cool.
point because blue means something.
Blue means something. You guys, I've got an important clue here.
All right.
Somewhere David Lynch is like, shit, he cracked the code.
I gave it away. Gave up the whole game.
Gentlemen, I have to say it, mean it this time.
Silencio.
We are digging
Silencio.
an unprecedented amount into the middle of this movie, but that's the way this movie works. Now we're going to rewind and go back to the beginning of the show. I will let the listeners know that before we even started talking and they started earning unprecedented points in the intro, Greg had 3 and Ryan had 2. If you want to figure out why, go over to patreon.com/yourpopfilter and listen to the Mulholland Drive bonus episode. With all that being said, I am only excited and slightly horrified to figure out what else we talk about. Let's take a break.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening so far. And let me just tell you that everything ahead of this commercial is much better than what came before it. That's my guarantee. While I have you here, let me tell you about a website. It's called yourpopfilter.com. And it's everything you need that's related to Pop Filter. Everything Mike, everything Ryan, everything Greg, everything Cassie, everything is there at yourpopfilter.com. While you're there, go to yourpopfilter.com/Amazon. Make that your new Amazon bookmark and do your shopping from there. That way, we get a little piece of the action and Amazon doesn't. Make sure you're also listening to everything that Pop Filter has to offer, which includes the Superhero Show, a podcast that covers every single TV show that's based on a comic book or comic book property, and Movie of the Year, where we sit down and try and figure out what is the single greatest movie of any given year. That's Superhero Show, that's Movie of the Year, and that's yourpopfilter.com. Rate, subscribe, review, bye!
Mulholland Drive originally started as a pilot for ABC, and a large portion of the film was shot in 1999 with Lynch's plan to keep it open-ended for a potential series. After viewing David Lynch's cut, however, the network rejected it because they didn't expect a David Lynch type thing for ABC. Lynch decided to finish it as a feature and a fuck you, and the half-pilot, half-feature result, along with Lynch's character style, has left the general meaning of the film's events open to interpretation. David has declined to offer an explanation of his intentions for the narrative, leaving audiences, critics, and cast members to speculate on what transpires, be it dreams, alternative realities, or hell itself. But he did give the film the tagline, "A love story in the city of dreams." Taste buds, I ask you this. How does quote-unquote getting the film affect enjoying it? Can we at least break down the movie into 2/3 dream, 1/3 reality as a start to figuring this out?
First of all, I can't imagine a world where Lynch is like, fine, you can take my movie and cut it up however you want, but I have full tagline privileges. I'm the one who will write the tagline, and it's this. Second of all,
it's the funniest joke he's ever written.
Is it funnier than having Naomi Watts ask Rita, Camila, Gilda, whoever, have you ever done this before? And her as an amnesiac being like, I don't know.
Okay, is it funnier than when Naomi Watts disappears and Camila turns around and goes, right. Donde está?
But I also... Now,
is it funnier than having Billy Ray Cyrus being the guy that your wife is cheating on you with?
Mike, now I have this picture of ABC executives, like, because the story goes that the executive put it on in the background while he was like filling out paperwork or like signing his name, and then at the end he was like, I don't like it. But instead, because it's ABC, it's like, look, we have a spot in between Sabrina and Boy Meets World on TGIF. David Lynch, what do you think could go there?
I've heard his name. I'm not familiar with his work, but I know it's great. Let's see what it'll bring.
That
us.
was my experience of this movie, by the way. I was vaguely aware that I'd heard the name David Lynch. I've never seen Dune. I've never seen Blue Velvet.
Dune.
I've never seen.
Have you even heard of Dune, Greg?
I have heard of Dune. Yeah, I've never. I love the book, but I've just like never, for whatever reason, been interested in his version of it. Now I kind of am because this movie is so good.
You should check it out.
It's real bad.
Yeah.
If you've ever wanted to see Captain Picard run into a full war holding a bulldog, I mean, check out this movie.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a different side of Dune than what I'm actually into. But I had like no awareness of who this guy was or what he did, and the movie does a really good job of like taking you from novitiate of David Lynch to like what the experience is. I think I got the full experience from this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it does hold your hand until you don't realize that, you know, it's let go of your hand.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of perfect with this kind of movie is that, you know, okay, there was a, you know, assassination attempt, and now we're sort of in a friendship story, and this is all about Hollywood, and now they're falling in love. And I think that's all very purposeful. So the creepiness sort of sneaks in and really doesn't come in like into full play, with the exception of a couple of people behind a couple of dumpsters. Doesn't come into full play until, you know, like the last 45 minutes or so. And I think that's very purposeful.
And I think
the first 2 hours is like, it's like a movie. Like we get to watch like a Hollywood movie.
I think the idea also, I think a lot of times when we see a movie that is challenging like this, challenging to understand exactly what's going on, we reach for like what one reality explains why this movie is like this. Is it hell? Because then I understand. Is it a dream? Because then I understand. But I think this movie is a little bit like a cubist painting in that like it can only be understood as having multiple perspectives at all times. And so you can't ever say it's just one thing because it's both a dream and hell and reality and a movie and a look at culture all at the same time. It's not just one thing ever. It's never being just one thing.
And I think that makes, to suggest that, like, you're really searching for the answer, I think makes David Lynch yawn, you know? Like, he is just, he's fully out there saying, there isn't one thing, and you should watch it, and then, how about you tell me what you think?
I mean, it's a movie about the perils of trying to find one answer, isn't it? It's about the perils of how we know if there's something evil behind the building, we have to go there and find it. If there's a key, we have to find the lock. And the thing
that dooms the relationship, that basically dooms the reality that we know in the beginning, is when we're given that typical Hollywood plot line of the two girls saying, we have a mystery to solve, you know? And then they jump in the mystery machine, and then they go figure it out, and that all unravels. But I think Lynch is like tricking us into saying like, oh, I guess this is what you want. It's not what you're going to get, but this is what you want, is this like watching two teen detectives solve crimes and fall in love.
Yeah, and that's why Naomi Watts 2.0, let's call
Diane.
it, in the last 5 minutes of the movie, Diane asks the bumbling hitman what the blue key opens, and he just cackles for a long, long time.
That's David Lynch,
I read
baby.
the script and I don't know. Yeah,
I have to say, the movie, I think, gives you a little bit of the perspective of what it might be like to have mental illness, because there would be certain scenes where I'd be like, oh, these are demons. Like, I don't understand. Like, that to me, that hitman kind of seems a little bit like a demon. His buddy that he assassinates seems like literally a cartoon weasel. That guy, like, would be played by a cartoon weasel.
that human is played by a cartoon weasel.
The other thing, too, like, if we could talk about that hitman scene for a second, which is, I think, in a pretty impeccable short film, right? The guy goes in to like get some information, has to kill a friend, and then he gets seen, and then he gets seen, and he just has to keep murdering everybody all the way up until I would say very, not Roomba smart, but a very smart vacuum.
Yeah.
And it's like this entire short movie injected in the middle of this movie, but it's a bit confusing, even though it's super entertaining. It's a bit confusing as to why things are like this, and I realize, not while dreaming, but have you guys ever tried to tell somebody about your dream? And as the dream dissipates, you start filling shit in. And so
you're just, I'm talking. I got to make this up.
Yeah, and so it's like, oh my God, I've already started talking. And so what Lynch is doing, or maybe Diane is doing, or somebody is doing, is like trying to get from point C to point D or point F to point G and saying, fuck, people like the Coen brothers, right? Like there's like a Tarantino aspect to this. It's almost like postmodern neo-noir. Like in order to make the movie that I want, I have to include these things, but also I like it, but also I'm making fun of them at the same time.
And it goes back even deeper than that, right? Because when Betty first bursts onto the scene, first of all, her name's Betty, and she comes in and there is nobody as naive and excited to be in Hollywood in the history of Hollywood than Betty is.
Like everything's bright and shiny and you think it's the hot LA sun, but it's just her face and her smile.
She's looking at the inside of LAX like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so it allows her to be this like very old, like 1930s style character. It seems like she just fell off the turnip truck. And then she progresses through the movie. She kind of progresses almost through like the history of film in a way, because she moves away from that all the way to like the very edgy, dejected, she moves through hypersexualization all the way to like dejected, edgy, almost like misanthrope. And we see her be everybody, kind of sometimes literally, because like she kind of like mirrors almost every other woman that we see in the movie by either literally becoming them or they become her.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is getting to LA without that much of a personality, and so you just sort of like glom on to, and I don't want to like discount her love of this actress that she did, I think was as genuine as the movie wants it to be. But
wait, we got with this kind of movie, be more specific with your descriptions. Whose love for what actress?
I think that Diane's love for Camilla was in parts genuine, or like not it was genuine, but like in parts real. That but when Diane got to LA, Naomi Watts at the end of the movie, when she got to LA, there wasn't that much of a personality. So what she did was spend a lot of time, not just in the dream, but in reality, which I don't think is a thing in this movie, glomming on and sucking up personality types from everywhere around her.
Yeah.
And that's what sort of leads to our Wizard of Oz confusion.
And there's also
it's not just like taking information in, but it's purposely selecting information while you're in the quote unquote real world.
Yeah. I think because there's also another layer to this where it's weird, even though the women like change their names and change who they are really, there is this other part, which is this consistent relationship between these two figures. Even if they change who they are, their relationship actually does kind of follow a more logical form than anything else that happens in the movie. They meet each other. They're both trying to discover who they are. They kind of discover like who they are together. And when they really both learn who they are, they realize they're not going to actually work. One is desperately in love with the other, but one of them actually isn't in it all the way, and they fall apart, and that falling apart causes everything to fall apart. So no matter like who they are over the course of the movie, their relationship to me feels like a steady, constant thing that moves over the course of the movie, like in a much more realistic, natural way that we've come to expect from movies.
But are we sure that that's not just for Diane? Do we think that that's for Diane, Naomi Watts at the end of the movie, and Camilla, Laura Herring at the end of the movie? Well, because Laura Herring does come down and bring Naomi Watts to the party at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, and that's where we get that's where we get the beginning of the movie. But when Laura Herring is around Justin Theroux, it seems like they've been together for at least a long time. It doesn't seem like Laura Herring is necessarily being like this bitch who wants to jilt Naomi Watts much as...
I think it's because time is really fucky here. I think that when we go through the blue cube and their who they are changes, I think we move through a lot of time in their relationship. So I think their relationship had a phase where they were together, these two women, and then there is a phase where she is with this director, and that Diane, it is more compressed than it would be to Camilla.
I agree with you that time is fucky, but I think once we go through the blue cube, just to go back to Mike, your original question, it's not that the first 2/3 is dream and the last third is reality. It's two different types of dreams. Because when we go through the blue cube, time is funky, not just in that we go through time and a lot of time passes, but time breaks. Like time cracks and nothing is chronological anymore. And did not notice this until the last time that I watched it this week, but it's the fucking ashtray. The ashtray in the last third of the movie that I think Diane's other lover, right? The neighbor who comes over to get her shit takes the ashtray, and then the ashtray's there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of editing and stuff that also cracks time open, but it's all a dream. It's just one is the Hollywood movie, like brightly lit nightmare, and the other is the realistic dream.
Remember when she right after her other girlfriend leaves, and talks about the ashtray.
The neighbor who switched apartments.
Yeah, Denise, I think her name is, or something like that. Right after she leaves, you see what's her name? You see now Diane go to the kitchen, and she looks, and she has this really crazy look on her face, and she sees Camilla. I think, Ryan, as you pointed out, I think that's dislocated in time from where it really is. I think she's so distraught there because she's already like ordered, or the murder of Camilla has already taken place. And so she's like had this mental break where she's like seeing somebody who is dead again. And then she's not there a second later.
The time is fucky because we see Betty, who later will become Diane, and Rita, who later will become Camilla, see dead Diane, who doesn't shoot herself to the end of the movie. They find her dead body in the middle of the movie, and she's rotted. And you can't recognize that is also Naomi Watts.
Right.
And this is before the blue cube.
Yeah, this is pretty cute. But Greg, that coffee making scene that you talked about in the kitchen, like I think it's kind of the most important, besides Club Silencio, which is incredible, but the most important part of the movie, which is because instead of using like little people in chairs that control Hollywood and all of this crazy shit that sort of makes the first 2/3 seem dreamlike. That part right there, that's part of what made me think that this is the movie that's best at being a movie of all time, is because David Lynch understands movie making so much that he knows the language that we have subconsciously in our brains. And when Naomi Watts looks over and there's Camilla, and then it goes back to Naomi Watts, and then she looks again, and then there's Naomi Watts.
Yeah.
That's more upsetting than anything else in the movie. Like everything we've ever learned about filming and editing has now just broken in our brain. And that's the thing that like there is two separate parts, but it's that kind of shit that doesn't make me think that the second part is reality. That it's just a different type of dream.
Well, and I think that there's the dude who's in Mad Men, who I always call Jimmy Pardo, who's not Jimmy Pardo.
Patrick Fleischer or something?
Patrick Fleischer, who introduces us to the Mud Gremlin, and there's the Mud Gremlin, like there's the cowboy. These are the little hints that like there is no such thing as reality because these people wouldn't exist throughout all of it.
And in true Lynchian fashion, like the person behind the dumpster is crazy, but the cowboy freaks me out way more than anything else. Like, what is that person doing?
Because to me, that he seems like a pretty close analog to like God, and
studio heads.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, ultimately, the reason why it is not, I think, very good to just attach a different reality to whatever reality the movie supplies is that cowboy is not just God, but he kind of is God, and he's not just like someone with an astronomical amount of money, but he kind of is that too, because those two things are functionally on Earth the same. Like if you know really ultra rich people, which I've only come across a couple of in my life, you are allowed to be so particular because like you have so much money that you're allowed to like be a cowboy. You are allowed to like talk to people in the way that he does. And so functionally, like, are you or are you not a god? It doesn't really matter if you can still, I can disappear you, or I can elevate you, or I can force you to do what I want.
But that's why this is the perfect movie too. Even though there's been a million podcasts and essays written and recorded about this movie, this is why it's the perfect movie to do, is because I can't get over how this movie is about a love of movies and a hatred of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And so almost everything I see reflects that. But that could be totally different from how you guys might just see it as like, like a jilted romance, and then everything ties into that. And that's the perfect part about like getting it versus not getting it, is we're not going to argue here. We're just going to share our experiences. And that's what I fucking love about this movie.
I think
arguing would be foolish.
I'll say this one last thing. I think ultimately this is a movie about being in search of a girl. Everyone in this movie is in search of a girl, and I think that it's like culturally that is what we're doing, and it's bad for like the girl because we shift her through this position. And like in that big audition, they keep saying they're looking for a girl, and you get this sense that like they've like Godot style been doing these auditions and like run through getting ready for this show for like eternity. Like the old leathery orange guy that Naomi Watts does the scene with, and he's like all touching her and she's all touching him back. It's like there's like this feeling that this has been the eternal show, you know, and they've always been looking for the lead girl.
Or like one of my favorite, I don't know if you would call it pranks in the movie of just like Lynch fucking with us is when Naomi Watts and Justin Theroux see each other for the first time. It's so like romantic and sweeping, and then they barely ever talk again for the rest of the movie. We're convinced that the rest of this movie is going to be this like wild romance.
We are so more than out of time. We're going to take a break and then not keep talking about this movie we desperately want to talk about.
Mount Rushmore!
It is time for Mount Rushmore. Not time to talk about this movie. No, we're going to talk about 2001 Zoomed Out. As we all know, Mount Rushmore is a monument that only the worst presidents give speeches right in front of. And this time, it's going to be something a little better than that. It's Scandals. The 2001 scandalous scandals of 2001.
Woo! Big news stories of 01. Let's get it.
Let's get right into it. Ryan, you were the winner of last week, so you get to go first. What do you think is the most iconic scandal of 2001?
So I had to look up the definition of scandal before I did this.
Is it just the log line from Kerry Washington's show?
Yeah, it says show on ABC.
Okay, yeah. I think I've
Mulholland
heard
Drive.
that before.
An action or event regarded as morally or legally wrong and causing general public outrage.
General public outrage.
Typically, I think of it as like something as a tabloid fodder, but according to that definition, I think that 9/11 was a big deal in 2001, and it fills the definition of scandal.
And I'm what this is probably like a stupid question. What's 9/11?
Sorry, 9/11 is short for if you're on the inside, Reno 911. That's what I call it, and it got canceled this year, and that was a terrible tabloid scandal.
I think there's a lot of aspects. I just, as the participants, just because Ryan mentioned 9/11, the umbrella, doesn't mean you can't dig into some stuff. But there's questions. All I'm saying is there's questions that are scandalous that have come out since. So yes, 9/11 deserves to be right up on that mountain.
Big old scandal.
And I think it's crazy that we haven't really talked about it that much, but I think that's because we're not doing 2002 or 2003. You know, once we do those 2 years, everything we talk about is going to be like, oh, I see what this movie's doing.
Because even the movies that came out in 2001 that came out after September 11th was already a really short group. Even those ones, you know, they were like, if they had been edited after 2011, they were after 9/11. So, you know, we didn't really have a lot of content dealing with it just yet.
But I mean, one of the times I think we brought it up was for Lord of the Rings. Not that it was about 9/11, but its popularity could be because we just wanted to go see good guys kill bad guys. Mm-hmm. And we wouldn't see that for 2 years later, but yeah.
And that, you know, the second one is called The Two Towers.
Yeah, there is that.
That's crazy. That's crazy that they predicted it that long ago. Any movie that came out in 2001 that you're like, oh, this is directly talking about 9/11, look at those producers, because they maybe had a hand in also producing the greatest attack on American soil.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah, Ryan?
You and I have known for a long time all of Mike's conspiracy theories about 9/11, but is this the first time the audience is finding out?
This is it's coming out. It's all coming to the fore. I thought this was our dirty little secret.
All I'm saying is Building 7 is still on the table. Greg, you are up.
Okay. Wow. So it's like kind of a zany year, right? Sort of goofy things going on. In 2001, Enron went bankrupt. I think it's hard for us to fully wrap our minds around what a big company this was. It's not exactly like if Apple went bankrupt, but it's kind of analogous. I mean, this took down a host of other companies as well, but the sort of executive group in Enron was considered like, they called themselves the smartest people in the room. and they were considered like next.
They called
level.
themselves that?
Yeah.
I thought that was just the documentary. Oh my goodness.
So the fact that such a big company that was supposed to be run so effectively could go out and look absolutely destroyed so many different lives. I think honestly, if 2001 hadn't had other major news items,
Like what?
well, Ryan just told me about this thing with apparently in New York, which is just that sounds awful. So
And the ties to Scientology, right? The author of Dianetics and Ron Hubbard. Like, this goes all the way, baby. All the way to
All
Building
the way
7.
to the where jet fuel does not melt steel. Yeah, I think Enron has to be right up on this tippy top.
We have to put heads up, guys, because it's a Mount Rushmore. So I think I'm gonna do Bush's face after somebody whispered into his ear for the first head.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want to do Osama bin Laden?
Just the slacked. Can we do like a half and half? So half Bush is slack jawed, and I do think you can almost say nothing good about that guy, but that is a moment that he didn't instantly recover in front of children. I'm going to give him a pass on that one. But yeah, so half Bush's slack jawed face finding out 9/11 happened, and the other half is like Osama twirling his mustache because 9/11 just happened.
All right, worst customer in a restaurant. You want me to split your order up this way? And then his name's Kenneth Lay, right? Kenron. That's the main guy's head for the Enron thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wait, is he going on the mountain?
Yeah. Okay. And I'm guessing never served time or had anything bad happen to him.
No, I think he went to jail, right?
Yeah, so from this particular one, I know there is this idea that like when there's these big financial crimes, nobody goes down, but people from Enron went down.
Good.
This one,
Good.
probably not as hard as they should, considering that it's like billions of dollars that just disappeared overnight. But people did get in legal trouble.
I watched the doc, and I think if I remember correctly, they caught him like filling a personal airplane with luggage. It's like, hey, bud, where are you going? Why don't you come in this car right here?
Oh, I was just gonna fly. I'm just gonna go up in the air with all my bags of money, and then I'm gonna come right back and
that being
check myself into the police station.
Even though we think he did go to jail, and we will not do any research on that.
Never.
I bet
One time.
His prison sentence is much better than my life right now.
Well, your life, yeah.
Yeah, look at your life. I will let you both know that the Mike special Rushmore's amount of points if you get this one is still on the table.
We never do,
You'll get
Mike.
4 points.
4?
If you get this one in. Yeah. Because you're not going to get it. Ryan, you're up.
Okay, well, now I want to go for it.
Philly.
So this was the year that 9/11 happened. This is the year that Enron
Perfect recap.
contributed to. Thank you. Somebody's got to host this fucking show. Contributed to like the downfall of the American economy. But I would say one of the biggest scandals, one of the biggest things where we were like, "What the fuck are you doing except for ruining our goddamn lives?" was when the company that we hold near and dear to our heart and basically establishes everything that we love and all the decisions that we make said, across the street from Disneyland, we're building a new park, and we're like, fuck yeah, you are. And then they gave us California Adventure. And now we all love California Adventure because it's basically like Pixar and Guardians of the Galaxy. But there was a time, guys, where it was the shittiest California diorama from like second graders ever created.
Hey, if you were hot and tired from going around Disneyland all day, you could go on Soarin' and take a nap for like a half an hour and get some pleasant smells shot in your face. And that was amazing.
It was
you could go to that room where all the animation is all over the place and take a nap on one of their giant circular couches.
Or how about you could go on a ride, and folks, you can't make this stuff up, called Mulholland Madness.
Oh,
which
shit.
Is thrilling the entire time. Never quite totally scary, but you always think you're about to be scared. And as soon as it's over, you're like, you know what? I kind of want to experience that again.
Why was the cowboy there?
It's like a dark ride of Mulholland Falls where he pops up. Yeah, this was a terrible, terrible place. I think that I think it was the first time that Disneyland was like, their press release was like, fuck. And then they've done a lot to repair it. I think it is a cool place now. It's basically
Pushing
Disneyland
Pixar
2.0.
into there was so smart.
Pixar and Marvel was smart. Yeah, it was so crazy that they're like, we should build a place that's mostly food. Like, so why would you not think rides first, guys?
And like half of that park is a big lake that they themselves made.
Right. They didn't build around that shit. They were like, no, let's waste this real estate right here.
That shows that they didn't really have a plan, and somebody's like, some more rides? Like, oh, shit, we didn't think of more rides. No, a lake. People love the lake show. That is going to go in the maybe pile for now. Gregory.
Okay. This one might be a personal axe to grind. I don't know if this actually counted as scandal.
I got rear-ended on the 405
but
in 2001.
2001, right before he left office, Clinton gave Teddy Roosevelt the Medal of Honor for our involvement in the Spanish-American War. I don't know. Teddy Roosevelt, who was on this mountain, by the way, was like an expansionist, an imperialist, and our Spanish-American War, I don't know if that was like our greatest moment. I mean, we beat back Spain, but then we stole the Philippines and we didn't give it back for a long time. I think that kind of, on the balance, when you look at what Roosevelt stood for, I don't think he stands for the kind of America that we care about now. And the idea that Bill Clinton is the one that gave him this posthumous Medal of Honor is just another whoopsie by the Clintons.
I do like imagining them though, like they're about to beat back Spain, and then somebody towards the front of the line was like, "Quick, go get the Philippines!" Very slightly.
I got your islands. I'm going to be the first to say I don't know if Bill Clinton was a good guy, or somebody anybody should look up to. It's crazy to know everybody else says that.
I know. I love when conservatives are like, when the Epstein things come out, they're going to bust Bill Clinton, and we're all like, "Yep, whatever."
That was not intended.
Pretend you didn't hear that.
Maybe pile, Ryan.
We all know her to be not just capable of Stranger Things, but the star of Stranger Things. In 2001, Winona Ryder was not getting her writers in her contract anymore, where they had jewelry for her, so she had to steal it.
The shoplifting
Even
thing.
though that was so suffering to sit through. This was all over the place. My older sister had a free Winona shirt. Nobody ever understood or will ever understand, which is a sign of a good scandal, what really happened and who was in the wrong. And this is iconic, not coolest. I think she goes. You don't see 9/11 t-shirts. So if they're on the mountain, so is Winona.
I have a Bart Simpson t-shirt where he says, "Don't have a 9/11, man." That's my favorite t-shirt.
Good advice from Bart. Winona is on the mountain.
But yeah, I would say that the stealing thing is not that big of a deal. Her reaction on stage that one time during the award show is much more concerning
that's way
than
better.
Than
what
her
did she
shop.
do?
She just her face
on drugs.
went nuts.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, I remember. I don't think that was an 01, but yes. All right, let's do some quickies. Greg, what do you got?
Okay. The last time you guys went to the airport, did you have to take your shoes off? Well, guess what? That's because of Richard Reed. This universe's Richard Reed, who is an idiot who tried to blow up a plane with explosives hidden in his shoes. And to this day, we still have to take our shoes off because this one guy did it this one time in 2001.
All right.
Wait, are you saying the other universes are those? They're named Reed Richards?
Yeah, and they stretch real far.
Yeah, I would say it was the same guy.
Except Universe 1610, where he becomes the Maker, one of the worst villains.
It's the classic, no, we will not take guns away. We will not make it harder for kids to get guns and shoot up schools, but we will make everyone take their shoes off, absolutely.
Inconvenienced always. Ryan, what do you got?
Crown Prince Dipendra of Nepal he thought he should be king, so he killed his father, his mother, and all of his siblings. Shot them all down.
Whoa.
Of what country?
Nepal.
Is that what you said?
And then
That's
because of... There was a second where they had to figure out who was going to be the king after all of that. It turned out to be his uncle, but they didn't know for a second, which meant after he did all of that, before they could figure out it was the uncle, they had no choice but to not have a gap. So they were like, "All right, for 1 minute, you're king for 1 single minute, and in 1 minute we're gonna take it away. But for this 1 minute, Crown Prince Dipendra was king of Nepal."
All right, what do we got? What's currently living on the maybe pile?
Wait, can I throw out another one?
Yeah, throw one more.
This would be so crazy if it happened now. Jim Jeffords left the Republican Party in the Senate to join the Democratic Party in 2001, and it shifted the balance from Republican to Democratic in the Senate.
That's fucking dope.
Now. Imagine that
awesome.
happened now.
What a hero.
That'd be a big story.
Do you literally have to cross the aisle? Like, is there a ceremony where you have to walk from
Yeah, he
one
had
side
to
of the
get
room to the
out.
other?
And they
played
tried
the
not
graduation
to.
song in reverse.
The Republicans joined arms and tried not to let him, but then he started tickling them, and he got through.
Red Rovered right through there.
If you're like willing to tickle to get your way, you're gonna get your way because
That's what happened to McConnell recently.
people don't want to be
He-
tickled.
He tried tickling Amy McGrath because she's been in the military. She broke his fucking hand in her armpit.
Jesus Christ, what is happening to that person?
That's just like Black Hands from freaking or Cold Hands or whatever from Game of Thrones. Like,
Yeah.
he's dead, right? They're rotting.
Yeah.
They are rotting in front of us. If this was happening to Democrats, I swear Republicans would be like, "This is a sign that they're evil and they're rotting."
My favorite part about the
tricked.
hands is that there's 2 random band-aids put on there.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna
That'll
keep
fix
it
it.
in.
Don't worry, they're flesh colored.
Oh, Christ.
Not if that's your flesh.
What's on the mountain maybe pile, right?
Also, Bush became president. That's a little controversial, you guys.
The maybe
Right.
the maybe
Said one
pile.
more and then did a second one right after.
No,
right?
that was conversational. That was conversational. That was not within the bounds of what is acceptable as an answer.
Your maybe pile is California Adventure opening, Clinton and the Spanish-American War, the Crown Prince of Nepal, and Jim Jeffries crossing the aisle.
It's got to be just, hometown heroes. It's California Adventures, and that should close out the mountain. Ryan, what is your Mount Rushmore 2001 scandals?
Well, before that, what was the 4-pointer?
All the intelligence agencies had different information about 9/11. If they had talked at all, they would have stopped it.
That is scandalous. Shit. All right. Your mountain is Bush head with half slack-jawed, half what was the other one?
Osama bin Laden twirling his mustache.
Okay. The second one is Kenneth Lay from Enron. The third one is Winona Ryder twirling her mustache. And the fourth one is Mickey Mouse's roller coaster head ruining California Adventure and thinking that lakes are good.
When we come back, more Mulholland madness. Hola, Filterinos. I just wanted to interrupt real briefly and say thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. If you want to support us a little more directly, you can go to patreon.com/yourpopfilter. There, depending on what tier you pick, $1 a month, $5 a month. If you're crazy, anything more than $5 a month, don't do that. You can get extra content. There's extra shows, extra series, behind-the-scenes stuff. You could pay for Ryan to draw you a picture. I can write you a poem. You can get the shirts off our very own backs. All of that and so much more over at patreon.com/yourpopfilter. While you're on the internet, you should check out Shady Monk. He does all the tunes you've been listening to. He's on Bandcamp. He's on Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever kids get their music these days that I'm too old to know. Shady Monk lives there. You can probably follow him on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's Shady Monk. Wherever you get music, check him out. Taste buds. From Betty to Diane, from Rita to Camilla, and everybody in between, what is Lynch bringing to the conversation about identity?
Well, I think we got to start with going back to the whole "it's all about movies" thing. We have to start with how I think he thinks about actors, and not that he hates them, but he uses that as a jumping off point about how actors they don't. It's not just that they're playing a role when the cameras are rolling, but also they're playing a role when they're not rolling, but they're in their public persona, and then they're at home. So that's a bunch of identities. And then is anybody really that much different than actors? Aren't we all sort of doing
that's
this?
I think I agree with that part. I think he uses this is the world he's used to at this point, so he uses that as a way to enter.
This is his normal.
Yeah, to enter into the conversation. This movie, I feel like the reason you see this either collapse of characters all into one or explosion of one person into multiple characters is because he's saying that we are all capable of in any situation being people as low down or as elevated as they find themselves in the situation. I mean, for instance, I don't think it's ever alluded to that she is similar, that Naomi Watts is similar to the drug addict woman, but she's so much like her too. She's obviously named after the waitress, but she that drug addict character has the same blonde hair, and again she is in the same sort of desperate situation that almost everybody else is in the movie. And you just...
Who's the drug addict character? I'm sorry.
When the assassin guy is tasked to find, I guess, Camilla, I mean,
towards the end of the movie,
Rita, when
they're at
she's
Winkies?
towards the beginning of the movie, when she's still Rita and Rita is missing, and the Italian businessmen, mafia gods, whatever, want to find her, so they call the assassin guy and they tell him to like go to the streets and see who you can find, and he goes and
Right. Oh, the prostitute.
yeah. And she is so over the top. Like the way the actress is standing, she's jutting her chest out. I think she's got like fake, like hard nipples inside her bra. And she's so strung out and so desperate. But by the time the movie is over, you see like Betty Diane kind of moved all the way into that same desperation.
Her energy with that same hitman, once again, at Winkies, is that same energy of the woman.
I love that the place is called Winkies. I just love that. Like, you're in the middle of this movie trying to figure things out, and they keep going back to this place called Winkies, and you're just like, you feel dumb for trying to figure things out, because you feel like you're kind of being teased. The more you try to figure it out, the more you feel like it's kind of like making fun of you for trying to figure it out, or something like that.
The other reason why I think that Strung Out Girl is so important, besides being one of the first, even though we don't know it at the time, one of the first like realizations that it's just a world of Bettys, or it's a world of Dianes, is when we as an audience see that person, we're like, oh, okay, she's one of these people, she's a low life, she's not worth much, and then later on we find out that Betty is basically, or Diane, is basically that same person, that strung out, that much of a low life, and now she's attempting to hire an assassin. But we have spent 2 hours with her, so we're like, oh, Diane, what's going on? How can I help you?
Yeah.
Like, we all, like, the power of film, once again, will give us all of this empathy for this character.
Yeah, do you think, in a way, it's you could film anybody on any day of their life, and they look either like a hero or a villain?
I
Like,
do,
just
and
choose the 15 minutes?
I'm not saying that David Lynch is predicting social media taking over, but I do think that watching it now, 20 years later, that there's a lot of social media commentary going on, of who do you want to project as, and who are you actually, and, and your worst fears, and you're somewhere in between, or all at the same time.
Because the social media thing is really just an exacerbation of what has always been an interpersonal thing, which is that you have a projection of yourself that you project into the world. And underneath that is like a desperation and a longing. But what you project into the world often is someone who is composed and normal and can get through the day. And so your like composed normal self drags your desperate wanting self all through the world. And that's so inherently creepy. And that's what this movie explores, that same sort of creepiness, which is, it is so weird for all of us to be staring into the abyss and then still be at the bank. Like,
as if you're a caveman who did the caveman wedding proposal of hitting the person on the head and then dragging them by the hair all over the place. That's basically what you're doing with your real life.
That's
the other thing too. I hesitate to take the dream, like use the D word and take it literally, but in dreams, only in dreams, if you two are in one of my dreams and you guys start talking to me and we're having a conversation, that's not actually you guys.
Yeah.
That's just parts of me screaming at me, And that's where we get the whole Wizard of Oz effect of the people that were in my quote-unquote real life or in my quote-unquote dreams. They're all just you, baby. That's just you guys screaming at me about how I'm fat and
I think it's
not intelligent.
I think it might be one deeper than that, though, Ryan. I think it might be one deeper than that, though, because here we are in reality conversing, right? But you say things to me and I hear them and interpret them, and I create a Ryan that I'm really talking to. So even in our conversation, there's a way you can look at it where we are both alone in our conversations with each other. I only have my projection of you, and you only have your projection of me. And so it's like maybe there's that emptiness, not just in dreams, not just in movies, but in inherent, like in life, every day.
Because completely unintentionally, me just talking to you, you could see me coming off as like complimentary and thinking that you're handsome, or that I'm envious of you, or that I think you're stupid.
Thank you,
But nope, I'm not. Nope. These are all
I
examples.
appreciate all this, Ryan. This is great.
Or that I think that you're stupid, or that I think that like there's a number of things that I am not saying that you are hearing,
and that I put into it. So then, like, and how much of the message is the stuff that you're saying to me, and how much is it the stuff that I am actually just adding to what you're saying? Like, what am I really interacting with then? Is it you, or is it me again?
I want all the listeners to not think about this as they're having fake conversations with the three of us while they're listening to us talking about Mulholland Drive.
I just think
you're
think
fine.
David Lynch,
you're not that cripplingly alone.
I just think David Lynch would say at the end of the day, what reality? Like where do you want to retreat to that you think is a real space? Like where are you going to get to that is not a dream? That is not like it's not there. There's no you can't get away from these layers of artifice because even in ourselves we have mechanisms that create meaning and understanding that really delude us more than elucidate what's actually going on.
Which is why I love when people say, I don't get it. And what I think a lot of times what they're saying is that I don't have the language to express how I felt about that movie, you know?
For sure.
Because they think that they should come up with some, like, very, like, I don't know, effusive, like, just like all these long words to describe what they thought about
and
the
then
movie.
it'll nail the movie to the wall, absolutely.
Yeah. And then I got it. I fucking got it. But I think what David Lynch is saying is that you got this movie just like every other movie. This is how all movies work, you know? We're throwing up this fantasy, and then you're going to take out of it what you will. And that's why everybody watches every movie differently. I think it was the Mank trailer. I think I'm going to quote a trailer right now for David Fincher's new movie Mank, where somebody is saying to somebody else, people are just paying. It's about the guy who wrote Citizen Kane, and they're talking about the movies, and they're saying people are just paying for a memory. You know, like that's all it is. Like you don't get to take anything. You don't get to take like a hammer or a car home when you pay for a movie. You're just paying for a memory, and that memory is completely different. That's just something we like. It's so much more fun if you accept that.
Yeah.
Don't spend the time like trying to crack it open. Spend the time like enjoying the fact that you're going to have this memory forever.
We've moved so far on just the identity then. So instead of going back, let's push on forward. What are the mud gremlin and the cowboy? What role do they play here?
I honestly, it's so reductive. It's so absurd, but you just can't help it. I think the cowboy is like, if not God, like a God figure. And I think the guy behind Winkies is...
You just refuse to say mud gremlin.
I just...
Well, no, it's like Walking Dead. We all have to have our own word for zombies.
But I don't know what to make of him. I think he is kind of like a Loki figure. I think that like he is as much a prisoner of what's going on as he is one of the orchestrators of like... I think he is making puzzles that entrap people. I think that he doesn't like... He himself is entrapped. He's the like entrapped warden or something like that.
We talked about how like you can tell that the first part and the second part of the movies they're all dreamlike because of the editing. But I think an easier thing to go to is that they both include the person behind the dumpster. And it's almost like this reverse Santa Claus, or you know, somebody who has this snow globe.
Krampus.
You know, I guess Krampus. That sort of gets to watch and control. And I don't know. I think it's if the cowboy is God or the studio executive, which I think that's, you know, the same thing, then this is closer to either David Lynch or us.
Yeah.
But it's somebody who is watching and controlling. And I guess it's closer to David Lynch because
he's still got a
sort
fucking
of just
boss. Like he's the one doing it, as it said, but he's still got a fucking boss. He's still at work.
He's trapped behind the dumpster where the cowboy can show up and do wherever he wants.
And then just when things get crazy, I will, first of all, slowly slide my head out from behind the dumpster to see what happens. Or I got this blue cube, and I'm going to see what happens with that.
Would you classify his expression there as like a Mona Lisa smile? I have stopped the movie there every time I've watched it, and I think that expression is perfect because he looks kind of happy-ish, like a little bit like I'm being a stinker. He's really...
It's a Bugs Bunny aspect.
Yeah, I think Bugs Bunny's perfect because I think as much as he is a vehicle of destruction, I think in this he's also kind of weirdly a vehicle of creation, right? Like he is like David Lynch. He's making everything that's happening. And so as fucked up as it is, he still has this generative property that is bringing like some newness into that corner of the world.
Or it's sort...
If we're led to believe that the blue cube comes from him based on the stuff at the end, then he throws the blue cube into their world the way Lynch throws Mulholland Drive into our world to fuck up their brain.
And just to keep the box analogy going, it's sort of like it's Pandora, but you open it by buying the ticket to the movie. Like once you sit down in the chair, now the box is open and you're just letting all of these people do whatever they want to you. And that's what you want. apparently that is what you have asked for, is to go through all of it.
And the movie is a perfect example of this, because this is a movie that lives in you afterwards. You can't decide you don't want this movie to come visit you again. Because when I saw it in 2001, I found it very upsetting, and it upset me for years later, some of the imagery in it and stuff. And so, yeah, it is like the box. You open it up, and then you just deal with the fact that you've opened it. Because if you don't want the things that like we've seen in Come and See, or the things that we've seen in The Piano Teacher, right? If you don't want those inside you, you have to not watch these types of movies, because you lose the ability to cancel it. You can't forget, really, unless you bonk yourself on the head and take a nap.
But again, that's what I think that is so great about Lynch, and that's why I think that this is his peak, if not the peak of film, which I think I said earlier in the show. But at least Lynch's peak is that Come and See and The Pianist are incredible movies but it does feel like
Piano Teacher.
Sorry, I called it the wrong thing. The Piano Teacher,
and I did too. It's on Patreon. Doesn't matter. With those two movies, you do feel like that the director is teaching you. Like they're sort of like making you eat your vegetables with those movies, as wonderful as they are. Whereas this is just. You bought a ticket from my brain, baby.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to go on the Lynch train, and this is what's going to happen.
The Piano Teacher and Come and See felt like the director was like Film Daddy, and like Film Daddy would sometimes make you look at things that you didn't want to watch, and you'd be like, "No, Film Daddy, don't make me do it." But David Lynch is just more like film
creepy.
I think
uncle.
film. Yeah.
Hey, you came along, man.
They'll hear language like this. Don't worry, they know what we're talking about. They're not so innocent as you think.
If he doesn't have a sip of vodka with me, he's going to go get it on the streets.
Oh, film uncle. We are unfortunately out of time for this segment, but don't worry, we will come back right after this break.
Daddy, I want a golden goose. Here we go again.
All right, sweetheart, all right. Daddy will get you a golden goose as soon as we get home.
No, I want one of those.
I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket.
That, of course, means that it is time for Shopping Spree. Earlier in the week, we all had a wonderful gift in the mail from the board, a fresh and crisp Mulholland Drive catalog. So today we're going to be flipping through those pages and picking out the juiciest items, starting with Greg, then to me, then to Ryan, then Serpentine back to determine who gets the best shit from Mulholland Drive. Gregory.
I don't think it was appreciated in its own time, but the 2001 Porsche Boxster was a beautiful little automobile, and I think it has everything you need from the Porsche platform without sort of the extravagance that is the 911, which is frankly not fun to even say. Yeah, that was a weird...
Wow.
I don't know why they made
Good Porsche.
car and called it that, but so yeah, the Porsche Boxster, this is the one that the director cruises around in.
Thank you.
Silver, and it's like convertible.
Having done a shopping spree before on a Moody or two before, the second Justin Theroux pulled up in that Porsche Boxster, and I knew that shopping spree was going down. I was like, oh,
There was a
that's great.
Porsche came out with that right around that time, that the model of car, and almost every single movie. Like between 2000 and 2005, if somebody gets a new sporty car, they get a Porsche Boxster, just as like a part of the advertisement for it.
That's what Oprah
you
gave
get
out,
a Porsche
right? To everyone in her
you
audience.
get a Porsche Boxster.
It's the name is like somebody mocking it, like, "Oh, you little Boxster, you're gonna drive away, you little Boxster."
But no, I think it is when most people think of Porsches, that's the first thought, right? Is like this era.
Yeah,
this
I think
shape of car.
that it was kind of more the everyman's Porsche. It was a little bit more affordable. It wasn't so gaudy in terms of power. So it was like you could have a Porsche, but it was a little bit more approachable and a little safer. The Porsche 911 is like a really kind of dangerous automobile.
Makes sense.
And then there's the new model that's just like half the size. It's called the Porsche.
Greg, good job. There's no need to give a point there. So I will go, and I'm going to get the magical and/or cursed, but definitely powerful blue box
This is the true overall first pick, right?
Yeah, it's crazy that the reality controlling item was left
No,
this
I
late
think
in the game.
The blue cube. This is a trap, Mike.
That's fine.
Yeah,
It's a monkey's paw. It's a genie's lamp. It's going to lead to your death and all of our deaths as well.
But then I just
No.
turn that key again and go somewhere else. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted Wolverine's healing power because that'd be dope, and I got hurt a lot. But more than that, I wanted that TV that Farnsworth invented to see like what other decisions. And this feels like a randomized version of that. So
your
want
understanding of the
blue
cube is that
box.
you just go into another dimension when you go through it. A new galaxy.
Another dimension?
Another dimension.
Another dimension?
Another dimension. For right now, that's what I think about it. Tomorrow, I will think something different about it because either I will keep thinking about the movie or I will have gone through the cube.
Yeah, because you're risking
buyer's remorse, bro.
you're based on that
Never.
assumption. You are risking quite a bit.
I've seen 2020. I've seen this world.
Also, if somebody's going to have the blue cube, it's Mike, who hangs out behind dumpsters and whose look and smell is roughly that of the... Do you guys know that was a woman, by the way?
The mud
Behind
gremlin?
the dumpster? The mud... I'm not going to say it.
Why?
I'm not going to make this work. No. Mud
Not-
gremlin's never going to work.
Stop trying to make mud gremlin
It's not
work.
going to happen. I did not know that it was a woman, and I guess that there's no reason to assume that it is a guy just because the one dude says it is.
Yeah, he doesn't fucking know. It's a thing that scared him behind a dumpster once.
I guess the character's a guy based on all the information that we have of that one person saying it's a guy, but it's played by a woman.
Ryan.
I'm glad the blue cube is gone because I obviously wanted it, but
welcome.
obviously could not have control of it, and I don't want to be the person to doom the world. That will be Mike. So I have no choice but to take something that I've always wanted since I was a little kid, the Black Book of Hollywood phone numbers and addresses. And I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with them.
What is anybody
murder
going to
somebody
do
just
with
to get
this?
this?
The movie's not pretty clear on this score.
Well, in social
Yeah.
context, Little Black Book is your dating. So this is just your Rolodex
And how
for dates.
near to
or...
the Holly Fleischer thing was this? Because also, like, that was like a big signifier
Yeah, it's
for
probably-
a while, Little Black Book, because her Little Black Book was supposed to, like, make a lot of, reveal that a lot of, like, celebrities had visited her brothel.
The way that I look at it is like one of those maps that you like the Hollywood star
Stars.
maps that you get. But this is a way better version of it, where I could like go to their address and then call them, and then when they answer, I just hang up real quick and then giggle.
And Jason Segel's like, what? Again? So in the first round, right, this is how this works? Board? I'm looking at the board?
Yep.
Yes. The first round, Greg has the Porster box, I have the blue
Yep.
box, and Ryan has the black box. And it looks like is getting the obvious first choice. I get the point.
So
for
I guess
that.
our thing here
Thank
now is we
you.
have to keep him from getting the
Board.
blue key, right?
Okay. But if we don't, he's
The first
he
the
can't do
first
anything
time I
until
watched
he gets
it,
that blue
I
key.
was like, okay, Betty puts the key in the cube, and then she gets sucked into it, and then Rita gets sucked in after that. But Rita takes the key, and then where does Betty go? Does she just disappear?
She becomes
But like, does she
Diana.
get sucked into the cube? I mean, because when the next time we see the cube, it's closed again, and the key hasn't been in it. Yeah,
that's
sorry.
like
I think
Hellraiser
you're
rules.
literalizing.
I
too
think this is
much.
exactly the kind of thing I'm not supposed to do.
Yeah, David Lynch is very annoyed right
Stop.
now, and he doesn't know why.
Mike, hit the mute button.
Ryan.
So the blue cube is gone, and so is the Hollywood Black Book, and I don't care about Porsches. And so the first round really took all of the wind out of my sails. And so the part of the movie, I guess, that I envy the most after that is that Justin Theroux gets upset at that Billy Ray Cyrus is fucking his wife, and so grabs the jewelry box, and then from out of nowhere pulls out a giant can of neon pink paint, and I just want to live the rest of my. I want to have a pink can of pink paint handy for any time that I need to pour some pink on something. So it's not just one can of paint. I want the ability to just grab it from wherever it is and then pour it on shit.
And it's such a hot pink. Like, it's a really sharp color.
I think
Yes.
this is a very interesting, like, gendered response. We don't often see the portrayal of a man catches his wife cheating on him and then he destroys her property. I thought that was a very interesting sort of reversal, and the fact that he targets her jewelry and then does it with pink paint, I thought like that was a pretty interesting, moment.
And it's almost like requested by divorce lawyers, like, no, go ahead, fight for the jewelry, instead of like threatening violence to her or the dude. Yeah, just pour some shit on jewelry.
Well, yeah, the whole movie is here's a guy who should be, and we've been told is in power, and the whole movie's saying, no, he's fucking not. There is an artistic fashion company that was at least around in the mid-aughts that has to direct from this, that if you ordered their anything online, you would get in a paint bucket mailed to you.
That's
and
so
it'd be
cool.
a bright pink, like, leaking down, and I did not realize until now that it has to be a Mulholland Drive. Check them out. They're Hips and Hair if they're still around. That is good. Mine is actually very related to that. There is... I'm a slovenly plus type of guy, and nobody looks messed up and good as Justin Theroux does, so I want his outfit that's also splattered in hot pink paint.
Yeah, that...
so there's like a black
not
coat.
pre-paint. You want post-paint?
Yeah, post-paint. Because...
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's better. Pre-paint, he looks like a Hollywood douchebag. Post-paint, he looks like an artistic Hollywood douchebag. And there's just something about the pink paint on the black jacket, black pants, and even his sunglasses, they're not transition. They're like just always a little dark reading glasses. That's what I want.
There's definitely like we haven't hit the 2000s yet. It's still sort of the 90s aspect of that outfit, and almost everything that Betty wears. Like she has those hair clips,
barrettes.
those like what are they called?
Barrettes.
It's so like 90s is still here. Don't let it die.
They didn't know. It all went away in that plane thing. Greg. You're up.
Okay, so as the resident car guy, I am going to have to say that the way this movie shoots limos reminds me of the way I thought of limos as a kid. I think it's very much my not understanding the message of the movie, because bad shit goes down in limos. Limos are almost like Charon's ferry. Like it almost feels like you're brought like across, into the dimension inside limos, or like evil carriages, evil buggies. Let's say. Imagine there's a buggy.
Buggies.
How many drivers does the buggy have? So. Although I don't think it's in keeping with the message of the movie, I just love a limo. That's how you can tell I've never actually had money, is I'm just blown away by a limo.
It's basically like a moving strip club. And it's not just because strippers are often in limos, but just the whole feeling of being in a limo is similar to that of a strip club, of just like...
sugar and glitter is going to be in there.
I guess I'm having fun, right?
If I drink enough, I will
you
stop
feel like
feeling
you have
bad
to
about
be
being
in
here.
the limo so hard. You're like, yeah, I'm in here. I'm in the limo.
Also, is this complimentary? Yes, it is, for $17. Oh, okay. Thanks, strip club and limo.
Okay, for that round, we have hot pink can of paint for Ryan, hot pink can of paint splattered black leather clothes for Mike, and limo for Greg. And I'm looking at the board. Ahasta wins that one for the hot pink can of paint. Greg,
all right.
Third round, first pick.
I think this is a very classy look, and I'm not sure how you would get it. But this is like a Brentwood, Beverly Hills style thing. Those branches, the branches on the front of a house, where you just have like a plant that grows up on the front of it. That looks so cool. I wish I had that.
Like does a plant like arc in front of the
There's
door?
in her aunt's house, like the front of it has like all these brown like vines up the front of it.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
I always thought of that as like being a way that LA is trying to trick people that they're like classy East Coast houses.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that mostly an East Coast thing?
I think so.
That,
yeah,
LA
like
adopted?
but I only see it around here in that area, and I don't even know what I mean by that area, but I think of it as being like, yeah.
What do you mean by?
Because we're like down in Orange County, so LA to me, I'm like, oh yeah, Hollywood's around there, right. And there's like a Beverly Hills area around there, and Brentwood is a thing. But it feels like very rich and nice.
Inglewood.
I think it would go with my Porsche and limo if I had some cool vines.
Yeah, you're definitely
of
cultivating
the
a
rich,
lifestyle.
and perhaps even, if there's time, famous.
You guys are letting me do this. This is not my fault. This is your fault. I'm getting that
Oh,
blue key. I'm
God.
getting the full set. I control
Fumbalaya.
reality.
Fumblerooski.
Who knows?
I will say, Greg, I have seen Mike try to put a key into a thing, and it's a ton.
Yeah, and this is like
of-
3 dimensions.
It takes a long time.
That was pre-core, Ryan. Because of quarantine, I now know how to pick locks. True story. So I could do it certainly with a key. And Ryan, it is your turn.
Do I get one more or 2 more here?
2 more. Let's make these ones quicker.
All right. So I'm going to take one of the most important things from the movie. I'm going to take that poster of Rita Hayworth from the movie Gilda. One, it's a good poster. It's nicely framed. It's a good movie. I like framed posters. I will put that poster on my wall. But also, I love how the movie is gesturing back to old movies by having that character literally look into the mirror and say, oh, yeah, old movie, let's be like that old movie. So every time I look at it, I'll be like, I like Gilda. I also like Mulholland
Also,
Drive
does she
for
dress
doing what
exactly
it's doing
like
right
that
now.
when she comes to get Diane on Mulholland Drive? She comes to take her up to the party. Is she dressed exactly like the Rita Hayworth poster there? That's so cool, dude.
Yeah. I think it's close.
So in that round, Greg got branches, I got a rowdy controlling key, and Ryan got that sweet poster. Mike takes the point down. Ryan, your last pick.
My last pick is, look, I don't want to be rude at dinner parties, okay? I'm trying not to be, but most stuff that people make is disgusting, and I don't have a way to deal with it. So what I want is that coffee napkin where I just put it in front of my face and I just let whatever gross shit is in my mouth fall into the napkin and have it be handled. Okay? Whether it's coffee or some other fucking disgusting liquid or maybe even a disgusting solid, I want it out of my mouth and into this napkin, and then I want, like, the napkin has the power to have somebody come and run and take it away from me. Get it out of here. I don't want to put that napkin in my pocket. I just want
Objection,
to
move
take it
to
away.
strike. This is mostly going to fall on us, this thing, like with him doing this in the napkin. So I think we have to veto this.
Yeah.
Just strike it right away.
I understand, and I would love to because it's gross, but we can't veto just because we don't like it.
Is that
We're not
Ryan,
the House of Representatives.
Objection, move to strike what Mike just said.
Greg, here's what I would like to do with what you just said. I pull out my napkin.
All right.
Can
I
one of you
walked
take
into
this?
that. I
One of
walked
you two
right
take
into
this
that
away,
one.
please.
My last pick, I want the ability to... It's not just healing. It's,
Yeah.
I love when they start with abilities.
It's-
Like, that's the best thing to buy.
It's not just healing that I've wanted since a kid. It's not just, what is this alternate dimension going to be like? It is, I want the power to say, can we get the room and have everybody fucking leave? Because the director says that. He's like, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, and just beat by beat tells the guy what to do until he's just making out with his girlfriend on set, and 30 other people have to take an early lunch because that's what he feels like doing right now. So I want the, can I get the room ability.
And then she's like, can Diane
Greg.
stay? And he's like, yeah, Diane can stay. Just so that she can sit there and have her heart be broken. Like,
Yeah, that really feels like Camilla is the villain.
we,
there.
but like, we can be cruel to each other. That's true. You're right, Dave. No, you.
I haven't been,
Okay,
but
so,
you two.
Um,
You two for sure.
I think if somebody like looks all over the world to find one of the best espressos of all time, and it comes with an espresso like waiter, like a guy whose only job is to give you the espresso, I would not simply let that fall back out of my mouth. It's espresso. Of course it tastes fucking terrible. Everybody knows that it tastes awful. It's garbage. It's a drug. You have to get it into your body because it gives you that sweet, sweet energy. So I would like that world famous espresso.
Okay, but we've seen what happens, so like it might taste okay, whatever. So Greg tastes.
I mean, I think that you could make the argument that
No
that guy was
matter
going to
what.
do that
No
to that
matter what.
espresso, no
Power
matter
move.
what it tasted like, just to
Just a
show
power
who's got the
move.
fucking nuts in the room.
But again, based on just what we have, Greg gets the very expensive, shitty espresso that comes with a waiter that I assume you have to feed.
And clothed, and he has that like very 1920s Hollywood maroon.
I had like
Usher
some
tuxedo.
money for like 2 years, you guys, and it was nice.
It was. We all miss it. And I have the ability to say we need the room, and Ryan has the ability to open his mouth and have shit drop out, and a napkin magically takes it away. I think this is clear. Ryan takes that down. That is Shopping Spree. Thank you, gentlemen, for flipping through the catalog with me. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, more Mulholland Drive.
Well, that is very, very funny. Or very sad, and perhaps now you have something to think about. Or very problematic, and perhaps we have something to think about. But in any event, I'm sure you have some reaction to what you're listening to. So why not check us out on the social media? You can go to Instagram or Twitter and find us at YourPopFilter. Email contacts@YourPopFilter. Hey, everybody. Keep watching them movies.
Taste buds. We are often quick to point out how all women are constantly exploited at all times in every movie. What about the sex scenes here? Are they germane to the story or scintillating fluff?
Yeah, I'm confused by this one as well. I'm not sure exactly what we're doing with these. Like, I'm not sure what this movie is saying about lesbian women or relationships. And, like, it feels like for a movie that is so much about Hollywood itself, it's hard not to see it as supposed to be kind of, like, steamy in a ironic, like, nod to Cinemax style way.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, is that it? I mean, because it's also supposed to be, like, a love story, so that feels pretty reductive, I guess.
Yeah, I think to call it fluff is like a tremendous misunderstanding of the movie on all levels, both in just like a surface level, these two people in love and are into each other, and then going into whether you whatever you want to call dream or nightmare or reality or just, you know, a movie about movies. Like, I think that you're missing it on all levels. I think that we sort of get both types of sex scenes, of movie sex scenes. We get the in the bed, late at night, dark, oh my God, what's happening? And then, which I think is very romantic. And at that point, we think that this is the reality as far as we know it. And then we get the hardcore, let's bone, that, you know, it ends in a way where, like, we start to figure stuff out. But I don't think, at no point do I think watching this movie is just like, hey, let's have more titties on camera.
You don't think there's even like a nod to that like that's not even part of the equation at all in a movie that deals with how, you know, women are
Hollywood works.
Yeah.
Well, when it gets less sexy, I think that's like, I mean, I think that's pointing at the audience and saying, you know, like, what were you expecting? Is this what you wanted?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think David Lynch is the director of Blue is the Warmest Color here, saying let's just get 14 minutes of nonstop, you know, girl on girl action.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would accuse it of him of only doing that. But, like, my question is it part of the equation? Not, is it only that?
I think it is, like, the intro to the first sex scene, the I guess the more romantic one, Naomi Watts, who is she at the time? Betty, says to Rita, you don't need to sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
We can share a bed. And then Rita just gets full on naked and is like, I'm going to go to sleep. There's a huge difference between you can share a bed because the couch is uncomfortable and jumping in full naked. And it does feel like that is mocking other movies that have that no tongue in cheek.
But I think it's important to also look at what Naomi Watts is wearing. You know, like, they are two parts of the same person, because that's sort of how dreams work. And Mike, you asked us about identity 2 segments ago, and we just refused to answer you. But I guess we
you ran off as fast as you could.
We can do it now. Of, like, if you, I think is it more crazy for Laura Haring to get in bed naked, or then it cuts to Betty and she's wearing, like, old man giant pajamas, you know, and just showing how, like, there's something in between here that's right.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of agreeing as if we're not, which is that because you're not saying that no part of it is also a nod to that, but I just think that it is part of the equation. And I wondered at different times watching the movie whether or not at any point, like, one of these women was supposed to be like a stand-in. Like, you see the women shifting around a lot, but is the director also kind of in the mix? You know, like, is he also one of the aspects of the women in this? Because there is, like, Ryan, you talked about earlier, the part where you see Naomi Watts sees the director, Justin Theroux, for the first time, and they, like, lock eyes, and it is like that big dramatic swell. And then later, the story about how Diane and Camilla met, it seems to be that day. that they meet. And I wondered if, and he is literally in between them in that scene. Like, he is sitting so that if they were to lock eyes, they would both kind of be looking at him as well. And I wondered if that entered him into the realm of, like, I don't know, part of the doubles or...
It's a really good question. And just sitting here, like, trying to, pay attention to you made me think that what if the only real, the closest thing that we have to reality is just Diane and her neighbor?
Yeah.
And... like, Camilla is just this, like, idealized thing that she made up, and, that was the only love story that actually exists. Because, again, at the party, it doesn't seem like they're doing anything that, like, they're acting towards each other in a very, like, showy, fake way.
Uh-huh.
But, I've seen a lot of people in real life, and it's just my reality, but I've seen a lot of people do that, too. So, I'm not sure.
You mean showy, fake way between... Thoreau and Camilla,
like, should
showing
you tell
not digging into Naomi Watts,
and it has
together.
like she
They're
is
just
not
being
a
together.
thought in either one of their minds,
right? Only Kako in that scene notices Naomi Watts is upset,
and now she's playing the director's mother, and she's seeing, oh, Camilla got you a lot of parts, and so now you think that okay,
yeah,
now I'm gonna touch your hand.
Because I see that in your head you have built up this entire relationship that you really don't have with her, and then you do feel like there is something about their relationship that's a betrayal towards you, but it's just in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens the second that happens? Everything goes blurry again. Like, for the first time since the masturbation scene, now everything is unclear again.
Yeah, it is interesting that Coco does that, like, the oh dear hand there, and she's also in the first part of the movie, she's the landlord, friend of the aunt, and when she sees Rita is very concerned, showing, like, reality is breaking through here, that Coco will always be concerned that Rita Camilla is in Betty Diane's life because of miscommunication.
Yeah, well, she seems to me kind of like she is this custodian of sort of broken women, because there's also the, like, sort of Cassandra Sybil character, the older actress who has this premonition that something bad is going to happen, and that same lady, like, is also administering to her. So I wonder if she's almost, like, supposed to be this, like, steward for, like, kind of broken women, and so she, like, has this. I mean, it almost would be like almost like a halfway house then, where all these different women who kind of can't quite live on their own because they have substance abuse problems or because they are like schizophrenic. And so then she's, like, seen that pattern before.
And I think it's super important to point out, too, that Coco and her friend are played by Lee Grant and Ann Miller, but disrespectably. And those are, if you're David Lynch's age, those are character actresses from his entire life.
Yeah.
And so I think it was very important that he cast Naomi Watts, somebody who nobody had ever seen before at that point, to be the lead role, and then have all of these faces. The room at the audition was just full of faces that people grew up with if you're David Lynch's age, but you have no idea what their name is, And then that's so much easier to place as, like, the, all of Dorothy's farm hands that are also in Wizard of Oz or in Oz. But still keeping Naomi Watts' face completely new to you in every scene.
What do you think the movie is saying about, like, boundaries between fiction and reality, especially as they intersect with Hollywood's treatment of women?
Yeah, that makes me think of the audition scene where Betty is going to read for a part, and in the part she's kind of being, like, sexually harassed. And then in the reality of them all standing around there, they're all not only is she pawed at by the actor, but she's also pawed at by, like, kind of the producers. And she's, like, almost literally, like, passed around to the different guys. And when you think of that being, like, the part that she's playing is supposed to be that way, and then really that's going on in the reality of that scene as well. And then you could take it other dimensions as well, I think, and be like...
Well, I mean, Greg, you talked about Heidi Fleiss earlier, where after that audition, which, is one of the best auditions in the history of Hollywood, like what we're watching, then her agent or her manager or whoever says, now I'm going to take you across the street, and now you're going to do the same thing with somebody else. We don't even have time to talk about that part. It's just time to move on to the next John.
I thought her performance in that scene with everybody around was bigger, but I felt like her performance when she's just doing it in the kitchen with Rita was actually the best. Like, that was, at that point in the movie, you had never seen how well Naomi Watts could act.
That's such an important point, yeah.
And then she does it just in the kitchen with Rita. And then Naomi Watts is so impressive in this. I think we're probably going to talk about that a little bit. But she manages to give you that performance, which is like among the best she does in the movie. But she actually takes a couple miles per hour off her fastball when she's with the guy. And the way she does it is by being bigger. She has like less fine control.
You thought she was bigger because she is screaming when she's with Rita.
Yeah, but she's like, the way she's
it's
like
very
making
like
out with
opera big. And like where the rest is she.
But
I definitely think it's worth noting, but I don't know if I'd say the audition is bigger.
No,
like,
yeah.
She just completely flips the guiding emotion.
I think the audition is a little more subtle, but I will give it to the scene with Rita where, because we're so fucking, we have no idea what's going on, we believe right away that she's screaming at Rita in, you know, like those are her actual words. And then she's like, and then I run up and I'm like, cut, I hate you. Get out of here.
And they both start laughing at how dumb it is. How dumb pretending to be somebody else could be.
She's yelling more in the kitchen scene, but I think the scene with a guy is just very weird and has an energy that is supposed to be like good acting energy, but is actually not as realistic as the performance that she gives standing in the kitchen.
But yeah, I can only imagine watching this movie in 2001, having no idea who Naomi Watts is, and when she comes out of the airport saying, "This is the fucking worst actress I have ever seen."
Yeah,
this is terrible.
I feel like
because
he tries.
How she just is as Betty.
Yeah, I feel like he tries to, especially early movie Betty. I think he tries to give you clues by having really weird ADR and having her, the way she speaks is like someone from, like, not someone from the 1940s, like a character from a movie in the 1940s. I'm just ever so excited to be here.
Yeah, golly gee willikers. And
yeah.
She won everything because of a jitterbug contest?
A jitterbug contest.
Jitterbug. And it is, he's not full on Wes Anderson, but there's definitely stilted dialogue.
Yes. It's very stylized, for sure.
And that's why it feels like he's, if not mocking old Hollywood, but it is like, remember how in old Hollywood it wasn't like good acting wasn't natural? It was just like, I'm saying words like this now. And they won Best Actor.
And like Ann Miller, who plays Coco, has not transitioned into modern film acting, right? She's just out there like a 1940s actress. And David, you could feel David Lynch on the sidelines of the set just be like, oh, I love it.
Yeah, this is perfect.
So weird, and I love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Speed round.
you know what that means? It is speed round. Gentlemen, just go fast. You don't have to say your name. When this movie goes to the theater, it really friggin' goes to the theater. What are we to take away from the Silencio interlude, and how does it lead to the rest of the movie?
Oh, man. I love this Silencio interlude. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I just have to say that woman is referred to as La Llorona of like West Los Angeles or whatever, which is the crying woman, and then her song is all
blue hair?
No,
Oh,
the one who actually sings the song.
They sort of like almost drag in as if she's one of those strung out people that we were talking about earlier, you know?
And then she sings, or seems to be singing, that song, and it's all about crying. And the two of the women are crying at the same moment. And I feel like it's amazing. It blows you away. But then also what's important about it is I think they're figuring out at that moment that their relationship is at cross purposes, like that one of them is deeply in love and the other one is kind of like, this is cool. And so they sort of, what they realize is that their relationship is tragically mismatched and broken. And that's why they're like absolutely sobbing. It's such an effective like moment in the film. It's so
it really
cool.
is. And it does show the difference between Eraserhead in this movie, because Eraserhead also has a scene where they go to the theater and watch crazy shit. And
what's it like in Eraserhead though?
Dude, it's
it's just
read
the Wikipedia.
It's
Not
a tiny woman under a radiator, rocking ass. But
weird cheeks.
This definitely flows with the story more, believe it or not. And the other thing it made me realize is, although this is not a movie theater, it is a theater. And another clash between all the things that the movie's trying to say is the only times that we run to the darkness. This feels like I'm trying to I'm phrasing this to earn a point, Mike.
Oh man, I was about to, but now I'm mad.
The only time which we run to the darkness is to get to sleep or go to the movies. Otherwise, we are running away, and that sort of combines the whole fantasy aspect of can we just get me the fuck out of my life?
Is it rude to ask, have you ever done this before to someone you know can't remember anything?
Yeah.
She forgot, right? Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. She forgot that she was an amnesiac.
I love
which
how
is
she's just like,
double amnesia.
I don't know. I mean, I have to say, I feel like once you started, you would know. Like, if you had done it before, I think your body would kind of tell you
You'd
whether or
go,
not.
I know exactly what I'm doing. Were your grandparents closer to the ones at the airport or the ones at the end of the movie?
Ooh, I had mom's grandparents or mom's parents and dad's parents. So mom's parents were airport, dad's parents were end of the movie.
And that's just like,
Yeah.
What, trying to pinch?
And just nightmares, just total nightmares, just racist, awful nightmares.
I never knew any of my grandparents, so I'm going to say like the little tiny ones that come piling out of a cube and scare you.
Oh, that's horrifying. Who gives the most lynching performance? Not like weird, but as in like, oh, you're probably only going to be in a David Lynch movie.
Cowboy guy.
Interesting.
I mean, we know that Ann Miller and Lee Grant, they were in movies before. They just haven't changed. But Cowboy Guy is a producer, and when him and Justin Theroux's conversation, in like at the ranch, is basically every single conversation I've had with a boss where they don't know how to talk, but they still don't like how I'm a smart aleck. It fucking hit hard. It's got to be Cowboy. He's reading the words, but he's not making them dance.
You know what I just realized? He goes up on top of a mountain to talk to that guy, and then it's like a place where animals are. They're not like slaughtered necessarily, but there is that like cow's skull. That's all very biblical stuff. Like, you're going to go talk to God, you climb a mountain, go hang out where there's a skull. That's very middle.
Greg, you mentioned the tiny grandparents who remind me of those things from Willow. What are those?
Little tiny grandparents? Yeah, I feel like
Who run out of the bag?
I feel like any understanding of this movie is always going to eventually come to a part where you can't encompass it to totally understand. And I am sure more intelligent people than I could, only viewing the movie, figure out exactly what was up with those tiny little people. But I don't know, other than that it is horrifying, and she's horrified unto death. Like, she sees them and they come after her, and her plan is, I'm going to run away and shoot myself in the brain. So, well done.
I mean, and those are from the homeless person, and that's exactly what the guy at Winkies did, right? Just
died
dropped
right
dead.
away.
Yeah, didn't shoot himself, but just died.
They're the people who come in with her on the flight initially, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they're supposed to be like, not necessarily demons, but like demons that brought her here and then usher her away when her like moment is done or something. Like, that's that could be my only reason for why they come back.
The other thing I would say is that they represent this like unachievable goal that, like, when you're Diane's age, you don't really care about, but once you get older, you do. Diane and Camilla will never have that.
Yeah.
Like, this is like that's so far. Like, they're driving away from her because that like endless love, you know, like that lifetime love is just something that she's never gonna have, and it literally drives her insane.
Is this movie simply about Billy Ray Cyrus being the one to make the hearts achy and or breaky?
Is it just about that? Yes.
Great stunt casting, right? Your brain does not stop for 1 minute being like, that's Billy Ray Cyrus, that's Billy Ray Cyrus, that's Billy Ray Cyrus. It's like, okay,
or at the very least,
I
Miley
recognize
Cyrus's
that's
dad.
Billy.
Is it as himself? Because that's really the vibe.
Well,
I think he's supposed to be
definitely
a
got
cool
the
guy.
but he's got the mullet that makes me think it is.
He's Gene
not,
Green.
Not even in the bottom 10 performances of this movie. Like, he did a really good job of just like being the kindest, most empathetic, fucking marriage breaker of all time. Just like, no, he's hurting right now. Go to him.
That's what I want to be someday. Was this the movie that made Jerking It While You Cry cool?
Yeah, man, I think we've all enjoyed. No. That was one of the few things I knew about this movie before the first time I saw
the behind the set story?
Or I just no, I guess just that I heard that there was a scene where it happened, and it was not what I expected. She seemed really upset. That's not a fun look.
Yeah.
What's the behind the scenes story?
Well, they made this ABC pilot, and then David Lynch called a bunch of people back together to film these shots. And believe it or not, the masturbation scene was not in the TGIF ABC pilot. So that was one of the new ones. And what they cut out from that scene is Naomi Watts screaming at the top of her lungs, like, fuck you, David. fuck you for making me do this. I fucking hate you. Like, they're cool now, but everything that she did in the movie was like, it felt fine and appropriate, you know, like getting naked, shooting people in the face, handing Ginger's money, using blue keys. That was rough, that wasn't rough, but that masturbation scene, like, she vomited for the entire day before they filmed it. She didn't want to do it. And
does it do a lot for the movie?
I think it does a lot for her performance. Like, I don't want to like back up Charlie Chaplin shooting a dog in front of a kid to get the kid to cry, but
such a baller move.
It's the craziest masturbation scene in movie.
Also,
Fuck
like,
this.
I mean,
I'm done.
Doesn't it also kind of fit though? Because really, like, isn't it kind of making the point that their relationship is masturbatory in a way that, like, it's kind of talking about the way humans interact with themselves, even when they interact with other people.
Yeah, I mean, all the times that we saw Camilla and Diane, Betty, whoever having sex, it was just Diane masturbating in one way or another.
Yeah.
Connected, how blurry do your eyes go when you're sadly, angrily rubbing one out?
I would say very.
Very?
Yeah,
Very
I can't
blurry?
see shit, which is why I've stopped doing it while I drive.
That's,
Mulholland
safety
Drive.
first.
That feels like you should get that looked at.
Going that blurry?
Masturbating while driving?
Or having to masturbate?
Just having your eyes occasionally just go totally blurry.
With corrupt producers, illicit affairs, questionable auditions, and stilted line delivery throughout the movie, what do you think Lynch is saying, and in turn the movie, about Hollywood's past and present?
For Speed Round?
One thing it does very clearly is it shows that we have this weird obsession with movies where we want them to be fake, and then we say to them, like, you're not real enough. And we want them to protect us with the layers of fake. We make them do that, and then we get upset when they're not real. But the more real movies I've seen, like for this show, honestly, folks, you don't want it. You really don't. Some people do. I can take it every once in a while, but the realer a movie is, the more disturbing and terrible it is as an experience to watch.
Yeah, Greg is stuck in that valley where it's like, we watch Breakfast Club, and he's like, fuck this. And we watch Come and See, and he's like, fuck this. Yeah. This all sucks.
It's like, these directors have so much power over us. It's like you said, Ryan, once you see the blue cube, like, once the movie has started, you are probably going to watch it till the end, even if at moments you were like, I really don't want to, because you have that blue cube and that blue key, and you're just like, these were made to go together.
I think one of the things that confuses people, like where they think that David Lynch is talking out of both sides of his mouth, is that he's saying that movies are good and Hollywood is bad. And both those things can't be true. Not all movies are made by Hollywood. I think that he thinks the art of filmmaking is the greatest art that has ever existed, and then Hollywood is responsible for a ton of terrible shit.
And if you're going to like,
but then on the flip side, I think he's obsessed with Hollywood and all of the darkness that it has to offer, like in sort of like a gossip, like ooh sort of way.
Yeah, did you hear?
And in that way, I mean, he's just totally mirroring all of us, right?
Yeah.
Like,
is this your Patrick Feischler? If not, what is? That is the guy who first sees the mud gremlin.
I think mine's Mad Men. I think there's this guy who like owns like a chip company or something, and I think that's what I think of.
Is he not a stand-up comedian in Mad Men?
Oh yeah. He's like a rude, like pre-Lenny Bruce kind of like insult comedian.
But he'll literally, like, he will say anything. And he like doesn't care, and he is just so upfront with everybody.
He doesn't own the chip company. The chip company hires him to like be in the commercial.
Gotcha,
That's right.
Gotcha,
this totally, for me though, this is who this guy is, and I think that he has a little vein of creepiness in him, obviously, but I think that in some ways, like, that early performances do to actors, this got imprinted on him, and now he is like, remember he was in that show Happy as like that really crazy torturing guy. He like now the only work he can get is as deeply disturbed people because we all saw him.
Is that David Lynch or is that his face? You know, like,
I think it's a little of both. I think
Perfect marriage of the two.
I think his face gets you halfway there, but I think seeing that guy do this part, I think, like, imprinted him with a permanent creepiness.
Well, I think Anthony, not Kerrigan,
Kiedis?
Zaz from Gotham. No matter what, he's always going to have a core of Zaz there.
Yeah. I think for most people, Patrick somebody should look up his last name, is Lost, though. I think he popped up in Lost, and I think that imprinted on a lot of people.
Is it odd or the perfect thing for somebody to have this as their only David Lynch experience?
Yeah, see, that's me. Like, this is the only thing of his I've ever seen, and I feel like I get it, and I feel like, I can say I'm a fan of his now. But is there anything I have missed from the experience, do you guys think, that you have from your extended experience with him?
To me, I can see an argument where it's kind of like having Watchmen be your first comic book, just to show you how highly I hold Mulholland Drive. But I can also see how because with Watchmen, like, you have to read a bunch of comics from the 60s and the 70s and 80s in order to understand it and what it's doing. But I think that it's not just about watching David Lynch movies before Mulholland Drive. I think it's just about watching movies beforehand.
Yeah.
If you can watch a bunch of movies, develop the language, understand how to how movies work in your brain, and then watch Mulholland Drive, I think that it can definitely be your first Lynch movie.
Yeah, because I think I think this is his culmination, because there's elements of Blue Velvet and Eraserhead and Twin Peaks in here. Like, there's certain areas he likes to play with, and this is just the best version and combination of all those things.
And what those areas is animated bunnies and their families.
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. Why is this movie called Neo Noir when Keanu Reeves from The Matrix isn't even in it?
Wow, Mike. Is this how you want to end the fucking show?
No. If your last name is Lynch, you got to consider changing that for at least a little bit, right?
Isn't it, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you just be like, you know what, that's a nasty word. Let's change it to something else.
Don't we still have a city called Lynchburg?
Yeah, I know. Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Maybe.
That's where there's a drink called Lynchburg Lemonade.
Yeah, think about changing it. I don't know. Just think about it.
Lemonade.
About changing it. That is the end of Speed Round. We are going to take a break. When we come back, awards, and we find out who won the show.
May I have the envelope, please?
It's hard to believe, because we obviously feel so highly about this film. The Oscars gave it absolutely nothing.
No, not even Best Picture?
Not even a Best Picture nod.
Whoa.
So we're going to fix that today and give it
Best
several.
Picture.
It is, you know what? It is the Best Picture this week. Inarguable there. It wins that. What would you say the most normal moment of the movie is, Greg?
I think that honestly the most normal moment of the entire movie is the hitman scene. That is definitely the time where you're like, okay, there's at least some level on which this is not hell or not a dream. This is the kind of stuff that would happen in real life. It's very hard to successfully kill somebody. In movies, it's always like you have the will to kill somebody, you shoot them, you just move on. But it is actually very difficult. It's a comedy of errors. So I'm going to say trying just to kill one person and then having to kill three people and one rather intelligent vacuum.
But at the same time, isn't it something that would happen in just a different kind of movie?
Yeah.
It's not like No Country for Old Men with a perfect assassin. It's like...
It's Tarantino, like we said.
I think it's real assassinations, or real attempts to kill somebody. Most crime is the worst plan you could possibly think of, executed the worst possible way. This really seems like how most crime goes to me.
Did you just write the logline to most Coen Brothers movies?
Yeah.
Ryan, what is your most normal moment?
My most normal moment is towards the beginning. My most normal moment is towards when Betty says goodbye to her new old friends, and they get in the back of their cab, and then we just see them driving through LA a little bit, and they're laughing, and then she touches him on the knee,
little pats,
and they pat each other, and there's little pats, and they're just like a happy old couple. And you just, even if you've never seen a David Lynch movie before, you're like, what the fuck?
Because her face doesn't...
What the fuck is happening right now?
Her face doesn't change. When Betty stops looking at her, her face never changes from that moment forward. And so even though it's a smile, it's an increasingly disturbing smile, because no matter where she looks or what she does, her face doesn't change even a little bit.
And it's a toothy smile, and they don't have the best teeth in the movie. There's a lot going on.
I guess the little pats feel more normal to me than assassinations.
See,
and
that's
vacuums.
so crazy to me. Like, because I know it seems like outside of the course of normal life, but that is something that normally happens every day, and I think that's part of his point. Like, that's as much a legitimate, real part of life as like these airport, partings.
And this is basically what Blue Velvet is about. But David Lynch gets off on the fact that real life, like 1950s classic life, is way scarier than anything he can think of.
Yeah,
that
normal lives alongside the extreme abnormal. So how can it be normal, right? Like,
right, which is why every movie that he makes has an underground.
Yeah,
that is just living alongside the upper ground, the overground, the ground.
Biggest scare, starting with Ryan.
Oh, this to me is the exact opposite of what I just said. This is the two grandparents that we just talked about, arms wide open, Creed style, coming at Naomi Watts as hard as they can.
Are these the same? These are the same people, right?
Yeah.
As far as we know, I mean, they're the same actors.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, okay. Something about what you said, I wondered if you thought they were different people. Because the first time I watched it, I was like, who are these people again? Are they supposed to be the ones that own this house? But no, they're just the people that were flying with her early in the movie.
And just it's two types of horrors. One, anything that's like that close to me, especially during COVID, like get the fuck away from me. And two, it reminds me of certain types of grandparents that I had that was just like, oh, let me squeeze and kiss them.
Yeah. Pinch your cheeks, but
fuck
mostly
away
to hurt
from
you.
me.
How about I just shoot myself in the brain?
Grandma. Greg, what was your biggest scare?
The scariest moment from this entire movie, and it's maybe less scary when you know it's going to happen, is the tension that builds up in the Winkies scene where the guy's like, he's right behind this place. And then the way he describes what's going to happen, and then you watch it happen. And I think there's an extra layer of there's things he doesn't describe, but you watch him realize that they're just like from the dream. Like when he sees the entrance sign, when he sees the phone, you can tell the phone freaks him out. When he sees the entrance sign, it kind of freaks him out. And there's a lot he sees in that you don't perceive. But when they're walking down and it like the tension just keeps building, part of you is like, nothing's going to happen because it's not this type of movie where when that lady, dirty dude, whatever, rolls out from behind that thing, that is the scariest moment in the history of movies, dude.
And going back to California Adventure, that is dark ride style. Like that is how things flip out at you when you're on a Disneyland dark ride.
And you only get the briefest look at the person, but you, for whatever reason, you just have to press pause. And if you look at it long enough, it begins to seem absurd. But in that brief moment, you see this weird half smile. You see dirt. You see like what looks like carbuncles. Like you like, what am I even looking at here? And then it's gone
and burnt. So much burnt.
It seems
like it feels like crispy.
And it seems like only the guy that had originally seen him. Only that guy actually sees him in that scene. The other guy doesn't seem to. So it's like that is an extra layer on it.
I get the mud gremlin. The tension building up to it is very scary, and you can see he's scared. But it didn't have the same like grab your guts the way 3-inch tall grandparents did for that. Those I don't want Thumbelina grandparents, and nobody should ever have to see them.
Holy moly!
So unfortunately, Ryan gets to that point.
I gotta
cringe.
Start winning these awards. Jeez, I'm so bad at this part of it.
Well, make me cringe, Greg. Make me cringe.
The audition scene was very cringy for me. I think it's supposed to be. I don't know that in this award it's only unintentional cringe that counts. But I do think there's an additional layer of like, that guy really is touching Naomi Watts. There really are those type of people standing in a bigger room than the one that those people are in. Naomi Watts has been cycled out of the types of roles that she could occupy in 2001. And so now the real person has like been shifted down along the role. So, that audition is the one for me.
Yeah, there's also cringe even when she's like taking control, when she grabs his hand and like makes him grab her butt to be like, no, this scene's going a different way. It still feels like she's quote unquote in control, but she's like, I'm doing this because this will get me the scene.
And he's so leathery. They picked a really good guy to have like opposite her.
We talked about him a little bit before, but fucking only, and like I'm not saying this is like an eye rolling phrase, but just from experience and watching movies, only in Hollywood do you find a guy who is I guess technically handsome, but that old and looks like that. Like that person does not exist on any other place on Earth except for here. Of just like dark brown fried skin, but the hair is combed nice and he's wearing makeup, and I don't know how to feel about it.
And he kind of acts charming, but the part of his charm, he every once in a while says something to make you feel really uncomfortable, and that's
sleazy
and
as
it's
fuck.
part of the joke. And then it's like there's so many layers to that, and it really is just so deeply uncomfortable.
He reminded me of the guy in Uncut Gems who wants to
hell yeah, dude, good call.
Julie. Like they're very similar vibes.
Did you recognize the director from that scene, Mike?
No.
The director, not the actor that she's acting with, but the director is James Cameron, who is the guy from the opening and from the entire film of Return of the Living Dead. The guy who's trying to the guy who knows about Night of the Living Dead, and then
he's like want to see a zombie.
Yeah, want to see a zombie, and do you want to start a whole horror movie?
That's the guy who plays the director.
Yeah.
I liked the things the director said. In the universe of the movie, everyone seems to think they're so cheesy, but I kind of thought they were cool. Like the things that he said, and don't make it real until it's real. I don't know. I know that's like inscrutable in a way. It's like hard to take that as advice, but I think that there's a kind of a kernel of sort of like something interesting about acting. Like,
I think those are all notes that either Lynch has been given by studio heads or Lynch, the Hollywood guy, has given to Lynch, the artist. Like, internally, he has given himself that note.
Ryan, what is your biggest cringe?
I mean, it's hard because Lynch tries to be so timeless. Like, it's hard to put a date or even an era on his movies. And typically it's like, oh, that's how it used to work before. That makes me cringe. So I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to say, because Lynch, I think, is so smart and so subtle and just never broadcasts, except for in the very beginning where Betty loses her luggage. And it's because the taxi driver has taken it and put it in the taxi. And now, for the foreseeable future, Betty, or Diane, doesn't have her baggage. That now she is baggage free and go about her detective story. And I think it's Lynch with a little bit too heavy of a thumb on the punny symbolism.
Interesting. I'll have to ponder that one. We're gonna play to the cheap seats.
Oh, it doesn't seem like you will.
I'll think about this.
Pound
2 shows from now.
pound.
You know what? I was really mulling over something.
Mulholland Drive or something.
There you go.
Ryan.
Hell yeah, same joke, same time. Pound for pound performance, starting with Ryan.
I know that we're trying to give this to more supporting people, but the range of Naomi Watts in this movie, I think it's impossible. And I think that I think this might be the first time that somebody has crossed over and done both the David Lynchy weird, acting like the cowboy and Coco and all the stuff she does in the beginning, and then also at the same time giving a truly great performance. Yeah. And I know that he's had Laura Dern in a lot of her movies, and Laura Dern is our favorite person of all time, but I think that Naomi Watts is now the queen of not just acting, but being in a David Lynch movie. I think that watching her go from Betty walking out of the airport to the audition scene to Diane in the kitchen at the end, it's really hard to not give it to her.
Greg?
Yeah,
try not to.
For me, it's the scene. It's seeing her do 2 different readings of that weird. You're my dad's friend, and you're trying to sleep with me scene that she does. The one that she does with Rita, and then the one that she does with old Leatherface. And just realizing that in the course of this movie, she has been able to affect a bunch of different types of performances, and then shift gears. And then when you get to where she's finally Diane, then it's she's unfettered, just completely naturalistic acting, and you're seeing that she's capable of actually becoming this person. And it's just so cool to see all those different speeds in one performance. I feel like most movies you get one type of performance, not a different one for every scene.
Yeah, once we get to her in the booth with the assassin, now she's just in every 90s movie that we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's refreshing, even though that's typically terrible. It's refreshing because of all of the other stuff we've gone through with her. It was impressive.
Yeah, I feel like she's somebody I've known but never paid attention to, and this movie proves why she was in everything for so long. But you guys tie that way, so it's Billy Ray Cyrus. Can I get the point? Director's signature moment, Greg.
Okay, so this one is a little tough for me because I've never seen anything that he does, but I'm going to take a stab at it because I have gotten the feeling, hearing through the internets, that maybe there's a lot about coffee in Twin Peaks. And when this movie has gotten so real to where you're like really beginning to think like, okay, am I dealing with just like Diane, who is like has mental illness and is like has made everything up until now, or what exactly is going on? She goes through the process of making a cup of coffee, and the movie so lovingly shows her making the coffee, and then like all of the coffee filling the like the pot. And it just felt like a very Lynchian homage to A Cup of Joe.
Which I think that if we were more Lynchian scholars, you know, that there's probably a lot that we're missing, not from like themes or whatever, but just like of all of the repeated motifs and lines and characters that we don't really know about.
Yeah, it's kind of a guess.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Ryan, what is your director's signature moment?
There's a lot here. There's a lot of. I really appreciate how he wants to take you to a new world, but will spend no money on it. And like, I bet producers appreciate that too. But like when Camilla opens the blue box, and then they just put the camera into the box. And then, and then
it totally makes
dark.
the Being John Malkovich sound.
Yeah.
And I love that shit. But I have to go back to what we've been talking about all night, and what Greg is talking about too, with the Diane in the kitchen, just that edit of Diane, Camilla, Diane. Like that's the most upsetting thing that you can do to your movie brain.
Those are all great, and maybe Lynch just has too many. It's hard for it to not be Silencio for me.
Especially with the Eraserhead connection.
Especially with the Eraserhead connection, but just like how unsettling everything is. And then the blue hair who looks like she's going to thumbs down and somebody's going to die in the corner. Like it has the same vibe as the person in the wheelchair behind Justin Theroux's negotiation. Like it just keeps flashing. It's those little flashes to like a creep. But
You know what I love about the Oscars, Greg, is how when the presenters come out and they read the nominees, and then they'll be like, "But I don't like any of those. Here's what the actual winner is."
Beyonce. Beyonce had the best music video.
Do it twice in a row. So it is the coffee shaka laka. Those are your movie of the year awardees for Mulholland Drive. We take a quick break, actually reveal who won, and talk about how this might do in the finale. So it seems like you guys are pretty big fans of this movie. How do we, without revealing too much leg, think it's going to do in the finale?
Without revealing too much leg. We've been blown away by a few different movies this year, but this one has a little bit of the smell to it, I have to say. Like, I think that in a few weeks when we get to the finale, we are still going to be excited by the types of questions that are left over about this movie. And so we're going to want to have more time to talk about it, more time to think about it. I don't think it's the slam dunk 2001 if you like before you've actually seen all the movies, but having just seen it, it feels not like a slam dunk, but it feels like a very, very strong contender. And Ryan has said multiple times that it's the best thing he's ever seen, including his wife's face.
My butt.
My butt. Classic. Borat 2.
In theaters now. Ryan?
Yeah, I agree with that. I know that like every time we do one of these shows, we're just a lot of times we're like hot and heavy about the movie, and that dissipates. But also a lot of times too, it's not about like what we think scholarly is the best movie, but also what represents 2001 to us, and then also what do we have more of a personal connection to? And Mulholland Drive does a lot of pushing that shit away. Like it refuses to choose a year to live in, you know, and it also is hard to make a personal connection to. That is like that's personal and universal all at the same time. So that kind of stuff could hurt it in the bracket, but also this year had Spirited Away. So I think it's up in the air, but I'm definitely pushing.
I think it does have a personal connection for me because the last time I saw my dad, he told me if I made the decision he wanted me to make, I would only see him once. But if I didn't, I would have to see him twice. And that's so threatening. I took myself out of the decision. I didn't make it either way, and I've never seen him again.
See, my dad said that I'm not going to see him unless the Mulholland Drive wins the pennant.
Oh, that I think you just have to flap your arms up and down.
Oh, is that
and then it will. Yeah, that'll happen.
My dad said I wasn't going to see him if he saw me first.
Oh, that's the most threatening.
Yeah, that's very dark.
I believe. So we'll see. We'll see in a few weeks how it actually takes. I don't know. Maybe Donnie Darko.
I was just going to say, here's what I do know, having not watched it in a long time. Donnie Darko, not going to win.
Yeah, dude, I kind of feel bad for Donnie Darko.
Yeah, going through Descripto's reviews of the different movies, it really does feel like if you think Donnie Darko's very smart, you fucking hate Mulholland Drive.
And we have so much awesome stuff coming up in the season, right? Like, not to be a shill, but Ocean's 11 and Y Tu Mama Tambien, these are great movies. Donnie Darko is going to get watched by us as well.
Y Tu Mama Tambien could also sneak in.
Yeah, Dark
and
Horse.
do it, because he directed 2019's winner, Roma.
That's true. He already has one on his belt.
Let's see if the voters will take that into contention when they have to vote again.
And the only reason he doesn't have a third is because we haven't done the year that Prisoner of Azkaban came out.
Yes.
Because that's going to take shit down.
That'll take it all downtown. Ryan, you were the champion last week. How did you feel coming into this week? What did you do to prepare?
I watched the movie 2.5 times. I almost watched the ABC pilot, but I read that it is everything that's in, or it's a lot of, all of it is comprised of stuff that's in the movie, but none of the good parts. And it's truly hateable. And David Lynch asked the world to not watch it.
Oh.
And so I respected his wishes. But yeah, this is.
It sounds like please don't look at the naked pictures of me.
Yeah,
please don't watch that
That's
pilot.
Chris Evans' dick. But vote November 3rd.
This conversation with you two, my two bestest friends and the two smartest people that know about movies that I've ever met, has only made my feelings for this movie stronger. This is in my top 50, I would say, top 40 movies of all time. I definitely think it's the best movie for movie of the year we've ever watched, and I'm a fan. And I think I did good, and that I prepared by watching it. What was your question?
Yeah, I was how'd you prepare? What was your mentality coming in? But you were just like re-reviewing the movie.
I think that was very fitting, actually. I think that's the way we handled a lot of the questions tonight.
I'll ignore that, but talk about other stuff for a while.
I think probably Ryan won, but I decided I didn't care.
Didn't ask.
I decided I didn't care who won ahead of time, and then the game started, and then I decided I did care, but it was already too late.
I do like that you decided I was going to ask you the same question or how you felt about it.
I just thought everybody should have equal amount of
it.
time to talk on the show.
I was going to ask you
I
questions.
would like 10
I should get to respond to
Greg,
his saying
I
that he
should
wants more
get to
time.
respond to Greg,
I don't
please.
think he should get more time.
Ryan is 30, Greg is 27. That's who won. Greg was right. Next week we are watching Ocean's 11. Until then, keep watching those movies.